How's it going, everybody? This is Ladero and Danielle Hart here. Thank you guys for tuning in to another one of our videos. We're so pumped. Obviously, we have the man, the myth, Rabbi David Kalmus, all the way from Israel.
Yes.
And
in our home.
In our home. This ain't a background. This is like
this is real.
This isn't a background we put on Zoom. This is like legit our house. And we have Rabbi Kalmus here.
Yeah, touch him. He's really here. Like he's here. Yeah.
He's right here. And we just got done with an incredible live. I'm sure some of you guys watched it. If you didn't, we got the replay posted, and it will change your life.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're here. We wanted to just chit chat on marriage and family. We can't let you get back to Israel out of our house without us kind of touching on, you know, what does Rebbe Nachman of Breslov teach, and what is his thoughts about marriage? Let's just start right there, jump right into it, not playing any games. What does he say?
Okay, you're good. So I think before we can even get into what Rebbe Nachman says about it, I think the Torah's elucidation of what marriage is and what is a man and what is a woman, like that itself needs to be addressed, because to understand anything that Rabbi Nachman says, or any of the Hasidic masters, any of the spiritual masters, any of the elevated individuals which we'll Bezrat Hashem be discussing, you have to first understand that the Torah has a very specific perspective on men and women and on marriage. Let's start with the fact that marriage is a concept that originated from the Torah. There was no marriage before the Torah.
Right.
So if you want to figure out how can we be married successfully, you should probably look at who created marriage, right? You know, a lot of people, they're wondering, why are we not successful in being married? Why is the divorce rate so high?
Right.
Obviously, there's a lot of reasons. Nobody gets divorced for one reason. It's always a multitude of reasons, stressors, challenges, difficulties, experiences that contribute to, you know, that very challenging situation, right? But let's say, for instance, I created a new sport. It's called basketball. Right, and it's this dimensions. It's with this ball. It's with this rules, and this is how long it goes. This is the refs, and this is what they have to do, and there's how many players are on each team. Now imagine that game became so popular that everybody's playing basketball. I don't even know that's what it's the first
I like it.
Okay, so now the whole world's busy playing basketball, but everyone, like, along the way forgets that I created basketball. And so everyone's doing their own version of basketball. And now, like, in this country, they're doing basketball, and somehow it turns into an all-out world war over there.
Yeah.
These people doing basketball, and they start blazing and smoking weed after the game, right? These people are doing basketball, and it's a lot of fun. It's really cathartic and therapeutic for them. And everyone's having their own different experiences with basketball, right? So, but really, like, you have to go to, where does marriage come from? Where does basketball come from? When you find out where it comes from, then you have a good shot of doing it in a way which is contributing to your well-being, which is contributing to the joy in your home, which is actually making it be matzliach, successful. You know, let's say, for instance, what's the divorce rate in the country right now?
70%, 68%.
Okay. So in California, I know when I was in graduate school in social work, they said that I think in general it was just like 50% in the country, and in California it was the highest. It was like 70%.
That I'm actually thinking about California.
But it could be since I went to school. Yeah. I'm sure that the divorce rates have gone up across the board, right? Why? It's not because anybody's bad. The guy's usually a good guy. The girl's usually a good girl. Obviously, there's circumstances where you have outliers.
Right.
So why can't they make it work? Because they don't know what marriage is. And it's not their fault, because marriage is an actual specific thing that has a whole entire structure and infrastructure, supports, things that make it work and flourish and things that make it fail. You have to find out what those things are. Otherwise, like, you're playing basketball and you don't know how to play basketball, and you're wondering why it's turning into this thing, right? Okay, so marriage comes from the Torah. That is a Torah concept, that we get married, we spend our life together, we have legal obligations to each other, which are both emotional and psychological and financial, and right? So let's find out how does that work? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Part of that working is understanding the Torah's idea and concept behind what is a man and what is a woman. Now this goes completely antithetical to modern secular understanding of humanity, which is that we are more like amorphous blobs, that we could be anything, and therefore if I want to be a woman, I could be. I just need to associate myself if I feel like one, right? And the opposite. Or I'm not even a person. I'm not a man or a woman. I don't identify as either, right? And none of this is to delegitimize people's experiences and perspectives. I love everybody. I don't judge anybody.
Sure.
I've been in a lot of these situations myself, and I've had these same confusions about myself. But one of the main reasons we're so confused is because the Torah says that the nature of negativity in the world is it does not want you to know who you are, right? Yeah. So its main way to get you is to make you not identify with yourself. Now, in the secular world, in the modern world, this is the greatest value, that I do not identify myself in any way and limit myself. But in reality, you end up limiting yourself because you have an identity.
Sure.
Right? And so the Torah says that the greatest suffering in the world comes from what's called galut. Galut means exile.
Okay.
Right? What is the exile of? Self. I don't know who I am. Now we're actually proponents of that now. We educate our kids to not know who they are, and we think that that is a tremendous progress. Okay? I can't even imagine how this generation is going to turn out. Please Hashem help us. Even I was confused, and it wasn't nearly like it is now, where men are in women's bathrooms and women are in men's bathrooms, and men are experimenting with men and women are experimenting with women. And again, I didn't grow up religious. I didn't grow up like with dogma. I'm not coming from a normative. I wear black and white, and so I have a certain perspective. I'm just speaking out loud. Like if you're teaching your kids that they don't have an identity of their own, you're really putting them in a tremendous sakana. You're putting them in a tremendous danger. Obviously, if you're teaching them the wrong identity, that's equally dangerous as giving them no identity. The key is to tell them what their real identity is. Right? Sure. That's called geula. The only difference between galut and geula is one letter. It's the aleph. The aleph is represented by one, represented by Hashem, by being conscious, knowing who you are. Right? The Jews left Mitzrayim because they knew who they were. That was it. The only way they got through exile was by the fact that they knew that they were Jewish.
Yeah.
Right? It wouldn't have helped them to think that they were Mitzrayim. In fact, they never would have got out of there. Right? And also, they would have never been Mitzrayim because they're not Mitzrayim, they're Jews.
Right.
So no matter how much you try, like, it's not about distancing yourself from any type of self-identity that will never bring you joy. It will lead you to be very confused and very estranged from yourself. You have to find out who you are and be it all the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Torah has very defined. Now they're not static, right? They're very fluid, but they're real concepts about what is a man and what is a woman. What is the root of a male soul? What is the root of a female soul? How does that project itself within a female's life, within a male's life? How do those two things intermingle and come together?
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing straight off the bat is that men and women, according to the Torah, even though they derive from the same exact source and they're equal, they're not at all the same. Okay. So what's happened now is that we've come to the point is if we're not the same, then we're not equal. And really, sameness has nothing to do with equality. They're two completely different things. To say, like, if a woman's not like a man, it means that she's not equal. So really, you're delegitimatizing the woman's specialness by saying that she has to be like a man. Like,
Right.
Why would you ever want to be like Ladaro? Right? You want to be married to Ladaro. But, like, I mean, I for sure, like, if my wife was going to be like me, like, that would be a train wreck, you know? But that her goals should be that I could do what David does. And Why are you doing that to yourself? Like, you're amazing and you're beautiful and you're special and you're unique, and we're equal, but we're different. It's okay. And anybody who's honest will admit that I know that when I have a conversation with my wife, it's different than when I talk to my guy friends.
Mm-hmm.
When I speak to my girlfriends, it's different than when I speak to my husband. We can try to coat this any way we want, and we can try to manipulate it until we say, really, we're exactly the same, except you have a different private part than me, and I have a different private. But we know it's not true. Mm-hmm. We think different, we feel different, it's totally fine. It doesn't mean that I'm better, or you're better, or she's greater, or he's greater. We're completely equal according to the Torah. Mm-hmm. Equally necessary, equally important, equally vital roles, but completely different. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first way that marriage succeeds is by understanding that you and your wife are totally different. Mm-hmm. Now that you come to the understanding that we're not the same, we don't have to be the same, we'll never be the same, mm-hmm. you can start to harmonize, right? Like if you're in a band, right? What was your favorite band growing up?
Favorite band? The Jackson 5.
Okay, very good, the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
Was everybody exactly like Michael Jackson in that band?
Not at all.
No. If everybody was like Michael Jackson in that band, would they have been the Jackson 5?
Not at all.
No. Okay. What made the Jackson 5 so special, and what makes any band special?
They're all in their lane.
They all are themselves all the way, but within a harmony.
Yeah.
Within a unity, within an organism that which is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Marriage is just like that. As long as everybody thinks they're MJ.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So
yeah,
and that's really what.
That is incredible. Why is this falling off? I can edit that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we'll go
So
into why is that? Okay.
Yeah. So this is it. So part of marriage working is that the man in the relationship has to really discover who he is, and the woman in the relationship has to really discover who she is. She has to come to full terms and acceptance and love for who she is, and he has to do the same for himself. Mm-hmm. She and him both have to stop pigeonholing each other to try and make them like you want them to be. Mm-hmm. Right? We have this nature of always trying to make our spouse capitulate to what we think is true, not because we're bad people or not because we're vindictive or manipulative, but because everyone thinks they're right.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But the Torah says you're both right. You just think totally different, right? Like if you if you're looking at the world, right? There's a way to look at the world in like a 3D way, but now we have something called quantum physics, right? Mm-hmm. Quantum physics comes out to completely different understandings of the universe than all science before that, but it doesn't deny the science that came before that. It's just looking at it from a totally different view. Mm-hmm. So same thing here. Women or men are different. So when you come and you bring yourself and you're trying to make them like you, which you do automatically because you think that that's the best, just like with your kids, like you want them to understand what you understand because you think you know best, right? And you do, but for you, right? So it's coming to the understanding like I'm okay with the fact that my spouse won't understand me. Mm-hmm. It's okay that we will not agree on this. That doesn't mean we have to fight.
Sure.
Paul, why is the fighting coming? Because I think that only when you think like me, we're going to be okay. And so we keep going at it until you think like me and you think like me. And really we could just completely think differently. That's totally okay. Yeah. Right? A lot of my fights with my wife in the beginning came because I didn't grow up thinking like this. I grew up thinking I was amorphous and she's amorphous. And so if we could just think it through all the way together, you know, you'll think like me and I'll think like you and we'll get and that never will happen. Right? It's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's the first thing. Men and women are different. Now that I know that we're different, I can learn to understand who I am, value it, and equally value my wife, but coming from where she's at. Right? Like I don't mean to. I'm not using this in this way, but I'm just the first thing that's popping in my head. I used to be a clinician and a social worker, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember I had one of my first clients. She had schizophrenia, and she spoke about things that on paper didn't necessarily happen, right? Now a person could come to her, like naturally, like you would normally do, and think, what's the best thing I could do for this person? Tell her that this isn't what happened. Because then once she knows that this isn't what happened, she'll be able to get past it, because it never really happened. Right, okay. But for her, it did happen.
Right.
It doesn't really matter what really happened, because what really happened is her experience. Right? So what does a good clinician do? He meets her where she's at. Like, oh man, that's what I said to her. Like, wow, that must have been really hard for you. And she's like, yeah. And you could see like this total like relief. Like, yeah, like that. Yeah, thank you. You know, that was like so validating. Right? I don't know if it's true or not. It doesn't matter. Everyone sees the world from their own bubble. Everyone sees the world from their own perspective. Everyone is projecting all of their own inner reality onto the world. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world through yourself, right? So you meet your spouse where they're at. It's very, very important to understand that. And so, like, let's say for instance my spouse comes home and she had a hard day. Right? And my nature as a man is to look for a solution to the problem. Right? So like I'm gonna be like, oh, it's like a pretty simple quick fix. You just like, if you do this and you do this, the problem's gone. She's like, why don't you understand me? I'm like, I do, I got it. Like this is the problem, this is how you fix the problem, like, and you're gonna be totally fine. And then she's getting frustrated with him, and then he's frustrated that she's frustrated with him. Like, why are you frustrated with me? I heard you, I'm with you, I love you, I'm listening to you, I want to help you. This is a real solution to your problem. And she's like, gosh, like, why can't you hear anything that I'm saying to you? Like, why? Like, give me some support, give me some love, give me a hug, you know? Like, and he's confused, and you're confused, he's hurt, you're hurt, right? I once heard my cousin say, like, people have different love languages.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, she was using this example of, like, for her, my cousin said her love language is acts of service. So when my spouse, my husband, does things for me in a thoughtful way, that shows me he loves me.
Sure.
Where for him, he doesn't need that from her.
Right.
He likes when they spend time together. Right? So when she doesn't want to spend time with him, he feels like she doesn't love him. And when he's not doing the dishes, she feels like he doesn't love her.
Sure.
When he's thinking to himself, what does me having the dishes have to do with me loving you?
Yeah.
And the other way around as well.
Right.
Right? But everyone has their own love language. Everyone has their own identity. And so marriage is the coming together of two diametrically opposed entities coming to a greater harmony, a greater sum of the parts than the parts themselves, like a band. Right?
Yeah.
I am the guitarist. I'm not trying to make you become a guitarist. I love that you're a drummer. And I want to learn about the drums. And I want to experience you playing the drums. And I want to see what it's like from your eyes as a drummer. Now, when you play drums and I play guitar, like, we can make some wicked music, you know?
Yeah.
But as long as I'm trying to make you a guitarist like me, so the band's done.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is like a big thing. Men and women are different. It's totally okay. We're completely equal.
Yep.
Let's start from there. Okay. Now that we have come to that like understanding, we can move beyond and start to understand the teachings of Chassidus.
Okay.
Right, and how this applies to, right? Because men and women are not just two separate entities, they're also two parts of yourself. Which could be also maybe why there's a lot of gender confusion right now. Because the Chassidus teaches that at the end of history, the female dimension of consciousness will start to spread across the world and become predominant.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Which is part of the reason why the Lubavitcher Rebbe said when he came to America from Europe that there was this feminist movement starting and women power movement. He thought it was great, and they're like, why is that great? And he's like, because that's Geula, right? Like that's like a window into the Geula, that there's the female dimension of reality is becoming prominent. So too, you have to come to understand what does it mean to be masculine and what does it mean to be feminine. Okay, according to Chassidus, according to deeper understandings of spiritual truths. Okay, so according to Chassidus and Kabbalah, male represents potential energy.
Okay.
potential reality, okay? Whereas women represents actual reality. Now you'll see this actually, if you think about it, project in almost every areas of your thinking and your acting and your relationship. What was Ladero like before he married you? I'm sure he had a lot of dreams, right? I'm sure he had a lot of plans. I'm sure he had a lot of ideas. I'm sure he had a lot of potential to do all of those things.
Yeah.
But he may not have done any of those things, right? There's nothing wrong with Ladero. He might have attributed to the fact that he's a failure. He might have thought that I'm less than. He might have thought that there's something wrong with me, right? But the real reason is because a man represents potential reality. And the reason why the Torah says it's not good for a man to be alone is because the world wasn't created that you should exist in potential. It's that you should become actual.
Dang.
Right? It doesn't say for a woman it's not good for a woman not to be alone. This is about men.
Right.
Just for a man.
Yeah.
I gotta get some water on that. Dang.
Okay. Right. So men, like, and they project this physically. Why? Because when men and women are together, he gives forth seed. Right now, according to science, that seed contains millions of possibilities for a child. But if he's alone, it never turns into a child.
Right.
So he is just like that seed. He is this unlimited potential blob. But he's nothing.
Sheesh.
And that's where all of the suffering of a man comes from, right? And on the other hand, women represent actualized, concretized reality. So that's part of the reason why in general. Now, obviously, these things that I'm speaking about, they apply on many different levels. That means that there are certain women who could have more male-dominated consciousness, and therefore maybe they are more like Ladero in that sense, and also women the other way as well. So again, this is not a static reality. There are outliers, and everything needs to be addressed, and it's, every rule has its exceptions.
Sure.
Okay. So women represent actualized reality.
Alright, so I'm just gonna keep that off
Okay.
right now. So as long as we can be seen, we
Amen.
good. Okay.
Okay. So now, and that projects itself as well physically, because she has one egg that tries to attach itself to one of your millions of possibilities. Right? So why one? Because that one takes one and makes a real child. If she had multiple ones, there would be no child. And so you need one. So now here's where most of the difficulty in marriage relationship comes from, on both sides. Because men have a affinity towards existing in potential and not in reality, so that causes a lot of challenges to the relationship, because she is not getting her needs met because she wants things to happen actually. Right? I know that you love me, but I want to see that you love me. Right? For him, it's not a steer, it's not a contradiction that I love you and I may not act in a way which is reflective of that in your eyes, because it has nothing to do. I love you. Like, I'm here with you. I think about you all the time. I work all day for you. Like, I'm doing all these things to try and, right? So it's not because I don't love you. But for a woman, that love needs to be projected through actuality.
Right.
Okay. So that means that, like, when you go to work, you actually bring home income, right? Right. When we're working on our relationship together, you actually do things in the house that show that you care about me, right? I've like thought a lot about it. Like, if you have, like, sometimes, like, my wife will be laying down on the couch. I don't care. That's great. Go kick off. You should relax, enjoy. But I know that, like, if I'm on the couch, she doesn't like that. And most women don't like that. Why don't they like their husband lying down on the couch? Who cares? You worked hard all day. Yeah. So, because women are programmed, just like men are programmed. Men are programmed to lay down on the couch. And women are programmed to not like that. Because that's what allows him to maximize his potential. Okay? So that's something that I had to adapt to. My wife doesn't like that. She likes when I'm always productive. Okay, great. Well, in truth, I really do always want to be productive. What would ever cause me to do that? Being married.
Yeah.
Now, if I don't know that, so I will resist. And I'll get angry. And I'll get upset. Why are you suffocating me? Why are you always giving me a hard time? Why can't you let me relax? And why does it have to be like this? And really, she's trying to give birth to your dreams. Now, she doesn't know that, and you don't know that. That's why there's a lot of challenges happening. But on the other side of the struggle is that because of a woman's nature to, like, the way that I've heard it from Rabbi Akiva Tatz, it's like he gave the example of a check, right? A man is like a blank check. A blank check could be anything. There's a movie called Blank Check. I love that movie when I was a kid. It's like, wow, it's like this check could be anything, right?
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Okay, so a man's like that. That's great, but you can't cash that check. That check is nothing. It's blank, but it's a blank check, right? Now all of a sudden, a woman, she wants to write a number on the check. Okay. He doesn't like that because now, like, I'm limited. Right? I could have been $1 trillion and you made me $1,500 to pay the rent this month, right? So, but now it's real. So the woman's challenge, even though her blessing is that she wants to actualize him, the challenge is moving too much beyond his comfort zone of being actualized, where he, like, you don't want to write too small of a number because he'll feel like he's losing himself. And you see a lot of times, like in relationships, men leave and, you know, are not faithful, and it's not because they don't love their spouse, and it's not because they don't feel this is their partner for life, or like everything. It's just, I feel trapped.
Yeah.
And she's trying her best, he's trying his best. Why does he feel trapped? Because the number might be just too low right now, or he's not ready for that number to be so low. So there has to be, like, on his part, he needs to be ready to actualize more, and the wife needs to be ready to be okay with being more in potential, right? So both sides have to work on being okay with opening up beyond what their nature is.
Yeah.
So this is this is like a really important point.
Wow.
So, I guess.
Wow.
So, you know, it's funny. Like we asked a question, and it's so incredible that you had all of that just off the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was like, that's it. That's the video.
That's incredible. The fact that you can just kind of spit that out.
You're embarrassing me.
I don't know. I'm sitting here trying to be like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So I guess with that being said, you know, how, I don't know, on a very, very practical level, how can a man get to that point, that place? Like, how does he reach?
So it starts with knowledge. It starts with knowing this is what my wife will be doing, and it's good. Wake up in the morning ready to grow. Don't wake up in the morning waiting for your wife to acquiesce to you. Like, she's not gonna acquiesce to you.
Yeah.
She didn't come to your life for that. She's not made for that. She is here to help you become you all the way. And paradoxically, you do that by limiting yourself. You have to write a number on the check. She helps you do that. So it's just, any change in life comes from knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is like the biggest thing, you know, I speak about this a lot in my videos. I just talk about, like, education is the answer to everything.
Yeah.
So then, like, people will tell me, like, well, education is a long-term solution. What about short-term? I was like, listen, there just might not be a short-term solution. We may just have to focus on educating. I mean, it's like if you look at the Jewish world, right, that's all it is. It's just education.
Yeah.
Everything in the religious Jewish world is centered around, at every level, whether it's for the husband or the wife or the kids or the infants or the grandparents it's all based on education. Why is it all based on education?
Yeah.
Because you change through knowledge. Greater knowledge leads to greater transformation. When my consciousness expands, I can become a better person. When it's limited, I can't change, right? If I could tell you from today until tomorrow that black and white people are really the same. We just have different skin colors. If you don't actually know that at some deeper level, you'll never be able to stop being racist. You have to actually know that. You have to really actually know that. Once you really know that, like I could corroborate it to you. So now I can actually start to move out of my limited mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing with marriage, with spouses. It's the same thing with raising kids. I have to be ready to know more than I do now, which takes humility.
Yeah.
And once I know more than I do, I can make a change. You know, like for instance, Rav Kook, right? I spoke about him in the last video that we did. He has an amazing understanding of this mitzvah ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, which is to love your brother like yourself. Rabbi Akiva says this is the foundation of the entire Torah, right? If you had to take all of the Torah and consolidate it into one thing, Rabbi Akiva says, love your brother like yourself. Okay, great. I think everybody, even the worst person in the world, would love to love everybody, and they can't. Like, I'm struggling to. Nobody's getting up in the morning like, in general, unless you're a terrorist, right? I want to hate everybody today. But when I try and love those people who I want to, I often fail. It's hard for me to do that. Why is it hard for me to love you? Because love is a feeling, and your feelings are whimsical.
Yeah.
Your feelings are, their nature is to constantly change.
Right.
So if, now that bears a question, if the whole entire foundation of the Torah is to get you to love your brother like yourself, this is a mitzvah. This is not it's not good advice. This is a mitzvah like you're chayav, you're responsible to do this.
Yeah.
How can I be responsible to love someone all the time?
Yeah.
That's impossible. Right? So comes Rav Kook to say, because this love is based on knowledge. This love is not based on a feeling. That's the reason why there's sinat chinam, there's baseless hatred. Why is it called baseless? It doesn't mean that there's no reason for it. It means it's not a good reason. Everyone hates somebody for a reason, right? The reason is just a bad reason. So you need to learn more about who they are, who they really are. And when you know who they really are, now you can love them unconditionally.
Yeah.
Because the love is coming from something greater than feelings. I have an understanding.
Right.
That understanding doesn't change. Right? I have a kid. That kid's my kid. I understand that. Because I understand that's my kid, whether he ends up becoming the president of the United States, or he ends up chas v'chalila struggling and going into the prison system or whatever, I don't love him any more or less. Why? Because I understand he's my kid.
Yeah.
If I didn't understand he was my kid, and someone just placed him into my house one day, and now he starts to really thrive, wow, I love this guy, right? But if he starts to go off, like, what are you doing to me? Why are you hurting me? You know, like, and I can't take it anymore, and I hate you, right? Like, that's what I hate you, right? But it's all coming because you don't know that's your kid, and he left your house when he was very little, and he got kidnapped, and now he came back, and once you know he's your child, like, oh my gosh, I love you no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So the love comes from a knowledge, the knowing. The whole essence of Torah is to get you to know more. And by knowing more, you'll be able to feel more healthy feelings that are not determined by the nature of the heart. You'll be able to have your heart guided by your mind, which is where you start to see transformation in your life. Because you Rebbe Nachman says you have full control of your mind. You don't have full control over your heart. You can't control how you feel, but you can control what you think about.
Beautiful.
Right? So
That's wisdom.
That's wisdom all day. So, what would you say has been the greatest lesson that Rebbe Nachman has taught you that you've applied to your marriage?
Good question.
okay. Few things.
Okay.
I would love to do one thing, but there's probably a few things.
Okay.
One thing that is not just Rebbe Nachman, it's the Baal Shem Tov, it's Chassidus in general.
Okay.
It's coming from a very strong perspective that your world is inside out and not outside in. And what I mean by that is that what you see in your life is really only a projection of what's going on inside of you. And so what does that mean practically? That means that if I'm not okay with my wife, it means that I'm not okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So if I'm not okay, now that might seem like a lot of pressure, right? Because like, wow, that means that every time that my spouse argues with me, it means that I need to work on myself. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, that's a lot of pressure, right? But on the other hand, if I understand that everything that's happening is really a projection of what's going on inside of me, so now I can actually take care of myself. I can do something about it. And now I understand I'm not a victim of my life, right? Without this understanding, you're always a victim to everything that happens in your life because out of your hands. But now if I understand that in reality, what I'm seeing is a reflection of what's going on inside of me. So now I can actually work on it. So for instance, one thing that changed gigantically was that in the beginning, I used to fight with my wife, my cats and dogs, because I blamed her for all my lackings. And I didn't know they were my own lackings. I just thought, we're not figuring this thing out. You're not meeting me where I'm at. You're not connecting with me. You're not understanding me. And it led to a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of fights, a lot of like brokenness, a lot of rawness, you know, just things that like you wouldn't wish on anybody, right? But when I came to this understanding that I don't need to worry at all about what's going on outside of me. I just have to take full responsibility for what's going on inside of me. Now I can start working on it every day. Right? So that was the first thing. And now I'm not a victim of my relationship with my spouse. I am like a proactive protagonist. I'm like the hero of my own story. And I don't do it by getting her to be like I want her to be. I do it by confronting my own lackings and actively working on them every day and not projecting them out on others. Right? So that's the first thing.
That's great.
Second thing is that Rebbe Nachman says in many different ways that joy is the cure for everything. Joy, he says, is the cure for actual illness, which we see bared out by modern day science that the main cause of illness is stress. Right? So what's stress? The opposite of joy. You're not joy and stressed at the same time. You'll be excited and joyful, but you're not stressed. Right? Stress implies a lack of joy. Right? Rebbe Nachman says explicitly that all illness comes from a deficit of joy.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but illness is not just a physical symptom. Illness can be a disharmony between me and my spouse. That's a form of illness.
Sure.
Feels the same way. Right? So how do I fix that? Joy. I used to come in, and I've heard you speak about this, about being the thermometer versus the thermostat, right? So it used to be that I was receiving all my feedback from those around me, and that was causing me to think, feel, and act.
Yeah.
I'm responding to it.
Sure.
Rebbe Nachman gets you to be proactive in being the cause of the reality. So that means, like, if, for instance, instead of me just like coming home from shul in the morning after I woke up a few hours of sleep and just like, like coming in and then seeing my wife's not happy and she's stressed about the day and my kids are like having all types of stuff going on and it's just a mess. Like, I come home, I get myself like worked up to come home like a joy superhero. I walk in every day
I like that.
with a little beatbox hooked up to my phone. I don't have such good technology. It's like a very but it's enough to do this thing that I do. I knock on the door and they say, who is it? I go, Abba. They go, Abba. I go, Abba Baba, and then they open up the door, and as soon as they open the door, I have a song ready, and I play it. It's usually like a Breslov song, something bumping, and I just start singing and dancing. And the kids right away are like, that, because they're not like us. They're not jaded by life. They're not worried about anything. So if you start the day like that for them,
I love that.
They love it, and they feel good the whole day. And your wife is happy because your wife just wants the home to be a happy place and a feeling good, and everyone in the family is getting along, right, and enjoying each other. So, that's just an amazing way to start. That's a crazy thing to do. Like, I would never think to do that on my own. I'm already getting up like at 5 a.m., 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to do this whole Rebbe Nachman Seder, right? So my eyes are rolling in the back of my head by the time I get up into the house.
Yeah.
But, I think people in general in the modern world, all of their efforts are focused on improving the outside. I'm going to work at home on myself in order to be able to make more money at work. I'm gonna do something here in order to go outside and do here. The Torah's whole concept is opposite.
Yeah.
I am working to make my life better at home. I am learning to have a better relationship with my spouse, right? Like, I'm not trying to escape here to make that better. I'm trying to learn from there and bring it in to make this better, right? So,
That's,
like,
that was gold.
yeah, so I'm not like, you know, it used to be that I like couldn't wait to get out of the house because it's like stressful, right? It's stressful to have to work on everything with your spouse. It's stressful to have to be a father all the time. It's stressful to have to do all the different things that you're obligated on. So like a lot of people I think are just like can't wait to get out in their comfort zone, just to relax, to chill. Like, and then like you hopefully have a good day, you come back home, you're like, let me just get through these 2 hours, and then like everyone gets to sleep, right? But now for me it's the opposite. It's like I am praying in my hippodah, dude, every day. Help me to be the best father I can be. Help me to be the best husband I could be. Help me to go home with as much energy, if not more energy, than when I'm with my students and when I'm with my friends. Like, I heard this once from a rabbi. They said to me, you know, you have a certain koach to help a lot of different types of people. And that's great. But don't forget that those could be and could not be people that Hashem wants you to help. But there are for sure people that you know that Hashem wants you to help, and that's your family. Right? They're your kids. And especially like when people start to, you know, find Judaism and Torah and they're so excited to want to give it out to everybody else, you could actually like be more busy with that than giving that to your own kids. And it's not coming from a bad place, it's coming from a good place. But like those people may or not be who Hashem wants you to help, but you know for sure the kids that came out of your coming together is for sure who Hashem wants you to help, right?
That's good.
So joy, just this, you know, Rebbe Nachman's insistence on constantly proactively creating joy as opposed to responding to your life and hoping it'll make you happy, right? So that I would say that's the second point. That proactive joy makes the avir, the temperature, the weather in the house really good, and it creates like the fertile ground for you to really have good relationship with your spouse. So I think that as opposed to me coming back somber and like, even if I'm tired, just to push it and to, you know, when I'm on my own, I can just, you know, fall on my bed and go to sleep and do what I need to do. But let me give this everything I have, not at work, when I'm at home.
That's beautiful.
Right, so I think those are two big things.
But it just makes me think, like, in other words, it's our responsibility as the men to make sure that there's peace in the home.
Sure.
You know, like we go, like you're saying, like you go over and beyond.
Right.
You know, beyond, like you even push yourself to make sure she just got just that little bit extra to make sure that her day goes smooth.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, just think about it this way. Like, when a person goes to work, right, I will be sick like a dog.
Yeah.
But if I know that I get a fat paycheck, I am gonna just take 10 shots of espresso. I'm gonna go into that meeting. I'm gonna do the best I can for an hour, and then I'm gonna pass out after the meeting, right? So, but that's just work. Like you're married to your soulmate. Like you're here for them.
Beautiful.
Right? Work is good. You need to support your family. But that's not why you're here in the world. You're not here to work. Work is a means to an end. What's the end? Your family.
Beautiful. Wow. You know, you got a question?
Okay.
I was going to say, I think I was reading in one of Rav Shalom Arush's books, and he was talking about the concept of men being the givers.
Right.
And a lot of times men want to be the ones on the receiving end.
Right.
Right, and that's one of the things that really creates a lot of challenges in marriages.
Right.
And so, like I've been really making sure that I'm working on that very, very intentionally, especially as of recently, especially after reading it. You know, I want to make sure that I'm always in a place of giving.
Right.
You know,
that's actually another manifestation of this imagery that we brought up with what the male provides and what the female does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The male gives seed, and the female receives that seed and turns it to something much more beautiful, much more real than it was given. Right? So, same thing here. This whole concept that Rabbi Arush brings down to a very simple level is to make you a giver because that's what it is to be male.
Sure.
You give forth something which is, doused in high level potential, right? But you have to give that forth. If the man is looking to receive, so there's no intimacy.
Sure.
Right? So that's how, and that's also with the woman, like, she really is, her greatness and her beauty and her uniqueness comes from the fact that she's an incredible receiver. Now, for a lot of men who don't know that is a differentiation between us, so there can be a bitterness that comes, right? Like, why am I constantly feel like I'm working so hard, and I'm trying to give, and I may not feel like that's being requited on the other side. And the answer is, like, very simple. She's not supposed to be doing that. She wasn't made for that. Like, and that her perfection is that she is the greatest receiver, cultivator, and creator of reality. She's the Aim Kol Chai. She's the mother of all life. Right? She does that by receiving from what you give her. Right? So if you give her a house, she makes it a beautiful home. If you give her seed, she makes it a beautiful child. Right? If you're busy trying to receive from your wife, she's not going to be able to give it to you because it's not in her arsenal.
I would give you something else.
Yeah, a whack to the head.
Bring out the whip.
Yeah.
Wow, just so good.
It is just. I mean, I'm sure people on here, when they're going to see this, they're going to just be in awe because, like, just everything that you mentioned is what's lacking in the world, and I think what society has portrayed of what marriage really is all about is totally opposite of what you just shared, which 100%. Is why there's so much confusion in the world of, like, how do I make this work? Why are we so frustrated? Why can't we, communicate right? Like, it's that whole concept of what you said, which is so rich. It's the knowledge. And I think when husband and wife have the knowledge, because I used to say this analogy, this word all the time about, why is it so easy for us to go, get a driver's license, to go get a marriage license, but it's harder for us to get a driver's license, right? You actually have to take tests, you have to study, you have to be in a class, you have to be with a teacher. But when it comes to a marriage license, as far as in regular society, obviously in Judaism, it's a little bit different, but that's easy, and it shouldn't be easy. You should have that knowledge. You should study and understand, okay, what is this all about? What is man? What is woman?
Right. Yeah, no, I've said this. I've said the same exact thing. I said, like, the one thing that you actually need a higher education in is marriage, and it's the only thing that you don't need to get married. And so I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
You really need a tremendous amount of knowledge, resources, support. It's the most beautiful thing. It's the most painstaking thing. It takes the most effort. The thing I'm most proud of, like, in my life, is the fact that not just that I stayed married, but that we really made it work. And so, like, even more than Torah that I've learned, or classes that I've taught, or, like, things that maybe on paper like, for me, being married was by far the hardest hurdle to overcome. And there's nothing wrong with my wife. She's perfect. And there is some wrong things with me, but that's not why there was problems. The problems is because I don't know what marriage is, and I don't know who I am. I don't know who she is, and she doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know who she is. But, just on a very basic level, if you just look statistically, like, what is the divorce rate in people who learn Torah on a consistent basis? It's much, much lower.
Right.
So,
exactly.
right. So why is it so much lower? So either you could say because they just refuse not to get divorced, or maybe they just have a totally different understanding of what being married is, and how that projects itself in the family, and what you're looking for from your partner and what you're not. Like, someone once came to Rebbe Nachman and said, I want to get divorced from my wife. So Rebbe Nachman is Rabbi Nachman's main student. So Rebbe Nachman said, does she cook food for you? And he said, yeah. He's like, does she make sure that the house, like, looks decent? He's like, yeah. He's like, so what else do you want? What are you looking for?
Right. Right.
So like, it doesn't mean that she should be limited to those things. It just means in terms of what you actually need to be happy is much less than what you think. You're like putting things on your spouse. She like I once like I heard once amazing thing. I told my wife this, and she told me this really changed everything for her, which is unusual for us, because usually like these things that maybe you're connecting to that I'm saying, she doesn't hear it in those ways. She needs to hear it like in some other way. You know, everyone needs to hear it in their own way. But I told her once that I heard that there was a conference and there was a rabbi, and he was teaching a class, and he asked, there was men on one side, women on the other side, and he said, who has a spouse that doesn't make them happy? Stand up. And obviously it's weird anyway, because your spouse is on the other side, so who's going to want to stand up in front of anybody?
Yeah.
It's a very weird situation. I don't understand like the context of it.
Right.
But obviously nobody stood up, except for one woman. So he said, why are you standing up? Why do you feel like your husband's not making you happy? So she said back to him, there's nothing wrong with my husband, but my husband doesn't make me happy. I make me happy. That's why my husband doesn't make me happy. She's not supposed to make me happy. I'm supposed to make me happy. And so this is something that I told my wife, because like there were times in the beginning where she would talk about things that she was struggling with, and like at some point I told her, and like, listen, I have a lot of lackings. I have a lot of things that I struggle with. I'm actively working on making myself happy. Like, what I'm learning from the Torah, what I'm learning from Chassidus, is that it's actually impossible for me to make you happy. Because no matter how much I know you, understand you, connect to you, care about you, I can never know you like you know you. I can never give you like you know. Nobody can do that for another person.
That's true.
So who can help themselves be happiest? Only himself.
Yeah, that's right.
And now all of a sudden, once I'm not looking for you to make me happy, I'm looking for ways to make myself happy, then everything you do is like a cherry on top. Right? And that's what Rebbe Nachman's saying. That is she normal? Is she abusing you? Like, is she no, she's not. So then what do you want from her?
Right.
Yeah.
She's good.
You got everything you need.
Yeah, you got everything you need. So then, but she's supposed no. You have to make yourself happy.
That's beautiful.
And then all of a sudden, anything she does for you is mama's like a cherry on top, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's not. That's not low expectations. It's about understanding reality. We're stuck in like these paradigms and these understandings that the world and the media is trying to like stuff down our throat, and like just like sit down and think to yourself alone without any noise. Is this real? Does that resonate with me as being real? Do I really think that me and my wife are exactly the same? Or do I always joke around with my guy friends about like I don't understand my wife at all?
Yeah.
Why do I do that? But then I say that like religious people are fanatics and that they're like they've lost any sense of progressiveness and like they don't understand what's going on. But I myself, in the privacy of my own heart, would admit like I'm not like my wife. So we have to like find some type of resolution there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Listen, we really hope you guys have enjoyed this. You know, we wanted to really make sure that Rabbi Kalmus did not go back to Israel without giving us some of this, right? To really be able to really help, help elevate our relationship so that we can take our marriage to the next level, in our home, right? And because when it's important that when my wife and I have it together, then our kids have it together. We can now instill new lessons and teachings within our children, and then our house grows, and then our community is affected. Then the city, and then so on and so on and so on, right? And then everybody that we've been able to meet, online, and we want to be able to continue to grow and be able to help you guys as well. And so we just want to say thank you so much, Rabbi.
It's my pleasure.
For every single word that you shared with us. We took it to heart. I'm so glad that record button is on, because we get to look back on this forever.
Yeah, and keep listening and learning from it. Like that's the beauty of having these videos. It's just you can pause it, rewind it. What did he say right there? Oh, let me go back, and take notes on it as well too. That's very important. But we are just truly grateful. Thank you for coming to our home
Yes.
and just sharing your wisdom, sharing, some of Rebbe Nachman's teachings, and also even just sharing just things from Torah that's just so rich
Yes.
and needed in the world. So thank you.
Let me conclude on one point.
Yeah.
Please.
Rebbe Nachman said, if you believe you can break, believe you can fix.
Mm.
Nowhere is that more applicable, important, vital than in your marriage, because there's many broken marriages.
Yeah.
And people love each other and they can't get it together and they feel like this is unsalvageable.
Wow.
Rebbe Nachman says it doesn't matter how much it broke. If you believe it could break, you must believe it can fix. And so, all of these things, whether you feel like you're very far from the things that we spoke about, maybe you don't even resonate with anything I said, no matter what's going on with you, this is on a personal level as well. Rebbe Nachman's message to you is, if you believe you can break, you must believe you can fix. Okay? And this is most vital, crucial within your marriage, because if you feel that you're so far, so then you're like, well, how are we ever going to do this? And the answer is that this is the greatness of God. That He can take a moth and turn it into a butterfly.
Wow.
And we're all like moths, It's black, it's dark, it's hard, it's nobody wants to hang out with a moth, It's like, I don't want it as a pet. But a butterfly is like,
It's beautiful.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
How can people find you?
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
You can call me.
They would love that.
Yeah. You can email me at rabbikalmus@gmail.com. You can find all of our classes on our YouTube channel. It's called Sion Breslov Project. That's our organization. It's a non-for-profit organization where we are trying our very best to give forth Rebbe Nachman's teachings in the most meaningful, authentic, genuine, and resonant way for people in our generation. So we have a website, sionbreslovproject.com, and we have a YouTube channel, Sion Breslov Project YouTube channel. You can look us up there, you can subscribe, watch the videos, and Bezrat Hashem, as time goes on and more connections open up and more resources open up, there'll be a lot more than those two things, but that's where we're at right now.
Awesome.
We'll make sure we put all of those links in our description, so that way you guys can that way you guys can follow. He has some incredible, over 500 videos on your YouTube channel, which is incredible. So if you like what he just shared today, you definitely want to make sure that you subscribe, so that you can take some of that wisdom and then apply it and share it with your friends, share with your family, and just go from there. So again, thank you so much for everything that you do, everything that you're doing for the world. And may Hashem continue just to bless you and your family, and you have major brachas and hatzlacha and everything that you do. And we pray lots of blessings for Zion Breslov Project as well.
Amen. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Guys, have a good night. See you on the next video.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov.